And if I blow, snow, it's been corrosive. Strutting down this muddy road, made more friends than foes.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades, friends, people I don't even like. It's Pan Politics. I'm your boy DJ Pinhead. I have an interesting one. So, Stepen A. Smith is now in this space where he wants to be the president of the United States, or he wants to at least play in politics. I personally don't care for it. Nobody I really know and admire, respect, who follows politics takes any of his bullshit seriously. Affectionately, he's known in some of my circle of friends as Sucker Ass Smith. As that's exactly how he acts, like a sucker ass, punk ass pundit who doesn't know what he's talking about. But here nor there. He interviews Dean Withers, who I actually kind of like. He's a liberal. You guys know how I feel about liberals. I only kind of like them. They're not progressives, but they hold good policies and politics for the most part. It's an interesting conversation.
How did you become engaged in politics, and when did your perspective shift to a more liberal ideology?
That's a good question, because as you pointed out, I absolutely did grow up not just in a conservative household, but a conservative environment, going to church 2 times a week and everybody around me kind of having the same thoughts as my parents. So, I mean, the branch off to liberalism for me really started first on J6 when I watched, the president, who's still the president today, Donald Trump, cause his followers to go raid our Capitol, literally smear their feces on the walls inside, which kind of in my mind sparked this thought of sparking division across the country. And at that point, maybe I still agreed with some of his policies, or at least thought I did. But inevitably, because of how divisive that presidency was, it really drove me away. And, since J6, of course, that's 2021 until now in 2026, I've spent my time reading, researching, and really have taken an initiative to learn more about not just the world we live in, but the government in which controls the policy that influences my life and the lives of those that I care. And to put it in a nutshell, I think I'm on the left because reality has a left-leaning bias.
I hear what you're saying. I guess what I'm asking is, do you find yourself being on the left because you're against Donald Trump, or because you genuinely feel?
Who the fuck is Donald Trump? Did y'all hear that?
I guess what I'm asking is, do you find yourself being on the left because you're against Donald Trump, or because you genuinely?
He's an idiot. Donald Trump. Excuse me. What's going on with me today? Establishment Democrats have this one argument. You guys only want to be like this because you want to be against Donald Trump. You don't really have any policies or worldviews, and you don't understand and
feel what liberals feel, policy-wise.
It's a mix of both. I'm on the left because I agree with how liberals feel, and I mean a lot of the points that we see being thrown around about the necessary nature of things like universal health care, about caring for everybody, about how social programs influence the drive to push our country forward compared to holding us back because poor people are lazy. On top of the social issues that I care about, such as the acceptance of everybody regardless of your sexual orientation, race, or gender. But right now I do spend a lot of my time talking about, the tyranny that we see downstream from the Trump administration. And honestly, today I feel like what it means to be on the left does include, these policy initiatives that we've been hearing people like Bernie Sanders talk about for years now. But it also includes, this very deep-rooted resentment for, the abuse of power that we are now all watching every day, either on our phone screens, on the TV, or maybe as you are, maybe some of your producers out there in D.C.
Do you blame Trump, when you're talking about the abuse of power, I shouldn't say do you blame Trump because I know you do, but I'm talking about, is it just him? Is it primarily him? Or do you have more of a concern about those who, dare we say, are lacking a spine when it comes to confronting him about some of the things that he does? See, for me, I think more about that than him, because I believe that anybody in a position of power, unfortunately, throughout history, has shown that if they can wield it with impunity, they will do so. It's usually the checks and balances that we have in place as the United States of America, where you're checking cats and you're saying, you can't do that. We're not letting you get away with that. We saw more of that in the past. We certainly don't see enough of that now. That's where I look at when I'm looking at Congress and the Senate, obviously, when it
That's a load of bullshit. I'll let Dean answer, but I'll tell you why.
comes to, the checks and balances that I believe have been minimized, to say the least.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with you there. I think this equation definitely includes a condemnation of those who capitulate. But of course, that all starts with what they're capitulating to. I think that two things can be true at once. I think that the primary driver of a bunch of lawlessness, and as I'd call it, clearly authoritarian practices, is the Trump administration. I mean, every day something new comes out about how they are illegally redacting his name from the files 950,000 times, or how he wants to breach the articles of our Constitution to possibly federalize elections, or how the 14th Amendment is now meaningless. And, we don't care that in 1868 we passed this amendment that gave you a claim to birthright citizenship if you're born here. Now, if your parents are undocumented, guess what? We're going to take it away with no approval from Congress through a new amendment or no reinterpretation from SCOTUS on the basis of the 14th Amendment that already exists. But those who capitulate, they definitely embolden those proclivities. They embolden those behaviors because it absolutely tells Trump that he could get away with it. Trump is the same man today in 2026 that he was in 2017 during his first term, right? And for the majority...
I was going to make a similar point in that Stephen A. Smith is trying to put the onus primarily on the Democrats for not fighting, but I would argue you have to put more onus on Republicans for not fighting. I mean, he's in their party. He's absorbing their party. He's the one who's pushing them out and calling them rhinos, and he just got there. If you're going to put the onus on Democrats and want to be mad at them for why we're in this position that we're in, you have to be furious with Republicans for not holding Trump accountable. And I think it would be obvious to accept the fact that they're more of the reason why we're in the position that we're in, specifically because Democrats and Republicans aren't comparable. Democrats are better by a mile. But Democrats still miss the mark damn near 100% of the time.
Majority of his first term, with the exclusion of January 6th and the lead up to that, we didn't see the same figure that we do now. We saw somebody who was newer to politics, didn't know how to select the right cabinet to find the right people that are willing to place him above the Constitution, so on and so forth. So I feel as if that capitulation from his cabinet and the capitulation from many people in Congress have definitely emboldened those behaviors that existed 10 years ago that we just didn't see to the same extent because of the lack of capitulation.
As a liberal commentator, what about those on the right that make the argument that you kind of brought it on yourself, not you, the Democratic Party, when they talked about how you weaponized, the justice system in pursuing cases against him? You were excessive in doing so, and as a result, him being back in office and engaging in what I've personally called a vengeance tour, against a myriad of people, all of whom the John Boltons of the world, the Letitia James of the world, Jack Smiths of the world, and others, of course. What about the role that liberals are accused of playing in it? Because when they had power, they certainly did everything they could to try and undermine him, if not flat out throw him in jail for the rest of his life. What do you...
At what point in time are you gonna put onus and accountability on Trump? Like, this is what I don't understand about the Stephen A. Smiths, the Bill Maher's of the world. At what point in time do you stop just complaining about Democrats because Democrats have better policies? They just have shittier messaging. It's just like they're the kid on the playground who is easy to beat up, so you beat him up. That's what I feel like Stephen A. Smith is doing, because he understands clearly that Donald Trump is worse. He has to know. I mean, not worse for his pockets, but worse for the country as a whole. But you sitting here slamming Democrats, okay, rightfully so, especially in a lot of instances, but not a mumbling word about Trump and the Republicans? Bro.
You say to that?
Well, I mean, if wanting to hold a criminal accountable for their crimes is now something that the right is outcasting, labeling as bad, and using as justification for more crime, I would seriously doubt the speculative basis that those on the right have been screaming and shouting about law and order. Listen, the claim that we see from millions of Americans that the Biden-Harris administration somehow weaponized or abused the DOJ against Trump is baseless. It is just a form or a piece, a figment of this big lie propaganda that we've seen distributed by the Trump administration in an attempt to get larger populist support for their lawlessness. And a really good example of just how baseless it truly is what we've seen coming from the DOJ in the last year and a month with the Epstein files. I mean, there's a couple things from the Epstein files that we know makes Trump look bad. Okay, we know if it was present and publicly available before the 2020 election would have inevitably led to less people voting for Trump. Could have even won Kamala Harris the election. But because the DOJ upheld such great respect for the independence of the DOJ from the Biden-Harris administration, because that's what the Biden-Harris administration upheld, they didn't dip their hand into those files and just release the ones that incriminated Trump because they respect because they respect the checks and balances, because they respect that separation. And anybody who would claim otherwise, I believe, is just disseminating the propaganda that has allowed for this lawlessness to occur.
What do you say?
So go ahead and check out the video. I think that Stepen A. Smith is doing I think this interview is about him and his ability to reach a different audience, reach a broader audience, and whether or not he can actually do this, like get out here and talk to people who have real concerns. But it ain't really hitting for me. And Dean does, of course, a good job of explaining why Democrats or liberalism is better than what we're up against. But at the end of the day, it's super easy. And I think you get down to the meat and potatoes of who Dean is, I think he's a liberal, and I don't know what that necessarily means for the movement, but hopefully it's something good for us. Anyway, peace and love, y'all. It's Stepen A Politics. That's your boy. And see you on the next one.
Did so many shows, said yes to a lot of them. Few weeks later, I don't hear peep out of them. You gotta stay focused on goals, don't ever